Depth of the quiet. Chapter 26. Letting go of the need to be understood. Liberating yourself from a battle you can never win. There is a moment in estrangement, and it often comes slowly. After months or years of struggling, when you realize that the deepest source of your suffering is not only the loss of your child, it is the loss of being understood by the person whose understanding once felt like a birthright. You raised them. You knew their cries. You learned their rhythms. You understood them long before they understood themselves. So when estrangement twists the past into something unrecognizable, the instinct to correct the misunderstanding becomes overwhelming. You want them to know your heart. You want them to know the truth. You want them to understand what you intended, what you tried, what you gave, what you carried. But estrangement creates a psychological reality where your child cannot understand you, not the real you, because the version of you they rely on serves a different emotional purpose. Letting go of the need to be understood is one of the hardest steps in reclaiming yourself, but it is also one of the most essential. The painful truth: you cannot force someone to understand you. You can explain your truth with clarity, honesty, humility, and emotional transparency. But you cannot make someone ready to receive it. Your child may be influenced, overwhelmed, loyal to a partner, committed to a narrative, protecting an identity, afraid of being wrong, invested in blame, avoiding deeper wounds, seeking emotional validation elsewhere, stuck in a black and white view of the past. Understanding requires openness. Estrangement requires closure. You cannot have both at the same time. This has nothing to do with your worth and everything to do with their readiness. The need to be understood is a form of grief. You're not trying to win an argument. You're not trying to prove anything. What you really want is to be seen, to be known, to be remembered accurately, to be treated fairly, to have your humanity acknowledged, to be connected again, to not be erased. Wanting to be understood is love in its rawest form. But when understanding is impossible, continuing to seek it becomes a form of self-harm. It keeps you tethered to the parts of the story you cannot change. Misunderstanding is a wall you can't climb through. Often, estranged parents try again and again to explain. That's not what happened. That's not what I meant. I didn't know you felt that way. I wish you had told me. You misunderstood my intent. I was doing the best I could. But here is a truth that hurts before it heals. A person who does not want to understand you will not understand you. Not because your explanation is wrong, not because their memory is right, not because their narrative is more truthful, not because you failed as a parent. They simply cannot let your explanation interfere with the emotional structure their identity relies on. Understanding you would destabilize the story that currently makes sense to them. You cannot win a battle that threatens their emotional equilibrium, and you should not lose yourself trying. Letting go of the need to be understood begins with one realization. Your truth remains true even when misunderstood. This is the threshold moment. You realize their story about you is not your identity. Their narrative is not your truth. Their perception is not your reality. Their accusations do not define you. Their misinterpretation does not erase your intention. Their misunderstanding does not diminish your love. When you stop needing their understanding to validate your worth, you begin to reclaim your freedom. Your life becomes larger than the box they put you in. You do not need their understanding to be at peace. Peace does not come when your child finally understands you. Peace comes when you understand you. Peace comes when you release the emotional captivity of trying to correct a story that someone else is invested in maintaining. Peace comes when you stop chasing closure from a person who is not offering it. Peace comes when you stop arguing with someone's wounds. Peace comes when you stop trying to earn back a truth that was never lost. Letting go of the need to be understood is not giving up. It is growing up into a deeper, quieter strength. Letting go allows you to speak without panic, live without apology, and remember without shame. When you no longer need to be understood, several things shift inside you. You speak more calmly. You defend yourself less. You stop explaining your existence. You stop apologizing for breathing. You stop shrinking under false narratives. You stop rehearsing explanations that no one is willing to hear. You stop living as if your identity depends on someone else's interpretation. You begin to remember who you actually were, what you actually did, why you made the choices you made, how much you genuinely love them, how hard you tried, how quietly you endured years of misunderstanding. You step out of the courtroom of someone else's mind and back into the home of your own. Understanding eventually returns, but only when the child is ready. Many estranged children, slowly, quietly, privately, begin to question their own narrative as they age. They soften. They mature. They develop empathy. They have children of their own. They experience life from your old vantage point. They encounter relationships that challenge black and white thinking. They face hardships that reshape their understanding of imperfection and love. Understanding often returns, but it returns on their timeline, not yours. Letting go of the need to be understood makes space for that future possibility without forcing it. It keeps the door open while keeping your dignity intact. Why this chapter matters. You cannot heal if your healing depends on someone else seeing you clearly. You cannot recover if recovery requires another person's agreement. You cannot reclaim yourself if your identity remains trapped in the need to be believed. Letting go of the need to be understood is not abandonment of hope. It is the liberation of your spirit. It is saying, I know who I am. I know what I lived. I know what I gave. I know what I intended. I know what is true. And I do not need anyone else to validate my story, for it to be real. This is where your strength expands. This is where your heart steadies. This is where your dignity returns. This is where your healing deepens. This is where your story becomes yours again. Understanding may come one day. It may not. But your peace does not have to wait for it. If this content resonated with you, you're welcome to like and subscribe to Depth of the Quiet. This is a space you can return to whenever you need steadiness. Whether that's during a quiet afternoon or at 2 a.m. when your thoughts feel heavy and sleep feels far away. If you feel comfortable, you're invited to share your reflections, questions, or experiences in the comments. Your voice may offer comfort to another parent walking a similar path. And if today isn't a day for interaction, that's completely okay too. There is never any pressure here, only support, understanding, and the freedom to heal at your own pace. You are always welcome in this space,